بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask him send peace and blessing his beloved and our beloved Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Continuing the chapter of Salat and the Hadith on Salat. Last week we read about what's considered excessive motion in Salat that will break the Salat, and what's considered not excessive motion, that certain movements are excusable. Today the first chapter is Ta'keedu fi Hudur al-Jama'ah, emphasis on being present in the Jama'ah, praying Salat with Jama'ah. Imam Malik narrated from Abu Zinad, who narrated from Al-A'raj, who narrated from Abu Hurairah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, by the one who holds my soul in his hand, my life in his hand, that it is, I think, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that I want to order that fire would be collected, and then a adhan is made for Salat, the call is made for Salat, and then all the men are ordered to, they pray in Jamaat, and that I set ablaze the houses of the ones who stayed behind. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so offended that he's expressing his displeasure and severe warning that even that the Rahmatullah Alameen, the mercy to the world, that the people who hear the adhan and then they refuse to attend, that he said that I wish that fire would be killed. Not that he did it, but he said that I wish. And who are the people? And he goes, I swear by the one who holds my soul, that if any of them, those ones that stayed behind, and this is generally referring to in his time, Sallallahu munafiqeen, the hypocrites, the pretenders to Islam, that people who are literal munafiqeen, meaning people who outside showed that they were loyal, they were Muslims, but internally they were a Jew, Christian, mushrik, whatever. They did it for whatever political or worldly benefits. And they would come to the mosque if they knew they'll find some piece of meat, a good piece of meat, or between the ribs some bit of meat is there, like a small amount of if you announce that for every salat to be like $50 or $20, maybe even less for some people, that people will make room in their schedule for that extra $10, $15 to attend the masjid. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I swear by the one in whose hand is my soul, that if they knew about this small piece of meat, they would come they'll actually come for salat, not for the meat, but they'll come not for the salat, they'll come for this meat. So some people, Shah Waliullah says, this is a reprimand that the people chase after the paltry benefits of this world, but they will not answer to the salat, in which the muaddin is saying, Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, that you come to your success. Concession. This is about Jama'ah. Obviously Jama'ah is generally done in the masjid. As long as the Jama'ah is done, it can be done at home as well. A Jama'ah is fulfilled. There's more than one person praying, two people or more praying together. Ideally, of course, it's in the masjid. But Jama'ah can be done. This Imam Ahmad Rahimahullah, according to his school, Jama'at for 5 times Salat is wajib. It's wajib, it's compulsory. And if a person doesn't do it, it's sinful. Unless he has excuse X, Y, there's a list of excuses. Like he has to protect, there's a list given by the Fuqaha, like he's a security guard who has to protect the garden. These are classical examples. That if he leaves that job, then the place is going to get, people are going to steal, or an animal's going to come take something. So some that his job requires him to, or that if he doesn't do the job, then he's going to like his livelihood will affect it in the long term. So therefore there's some concessions given about missing Jama'ah. Salat in the masjid is with Jama'at, obviously, in Jama'ah. Concession for this, the next chapter, when there's rain. Imam Malik narrated from Imam Nafi, who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he gave the adhan for Salat in the night, that is very cold and windy. And this adhan, and he said to the muaddin, if that pray in your dwellings, Allah sallu fi rihal, pray in your dwellings, or as-salatu fi rihalikum. We did the adhan here during the beginning of COVID. Don't come to the mosque. We tell people not to come. So the adhan was done if there's an emergency, and even you see in Madinah Munawwarra, this adhan is done when it rains really heavily. You probably see in those videos. It becomes dangerous to be outside in the rain. It's very slippery and so forth. And in those days, Then he said, and Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu said, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to order the muadhin that when there's a very cold night that were raining, that he just pray at your homes, that not come to the masjid. Now, in Melbourne, there's some masjids, I won't name any name, throw anybody bus, but like they see a little bit of cloud on the horizon, and don't come, we'll join the prayers together. You have to also understand the type of rain it was. Such a rain that it became difficult. In those days, if you've ever been in a village, like I've seen this with my own eyes in a village where there's no footpaths, and when it starts raining in Pakistan, we're near Multan somewhere, and it started raining, and the rain is so heavy, and there's no like paved footpaths, so it becomes just muddy. Like you got like 2 kilos of mud on your shoes. You can't actually walk. You walk even through it, right? So and he says that a cold night, right? So there's no street lights. Imagine it's totally pitch black, and it's muddy, and you can slip and injure yourself, or you get very sick. And you go to the masjid, you're not going into a heated, mashallah, heated masjid with lights. You're going into a masjid that is open air. So as it's raining outside, it's raining inside the masjid, and the masjid of Rasulullah is bare floor. It's not tiled. We know that because there's a hadith about the i'tikaf of Rasulullah where Rasulullah was doing i'tikaf, and when it was rained in the masjid, and his forehead is staying in the masjid in i'tikaf last 10 days of Ramadan, and he said there was mud on the forehead of Rasulullah in the morning because it's bare dirt. So therefore, it's a lot of hardship or mashaqqa. So he says that in Minhaj, take a book, Shah Waliullah says, there is no concession in leaving the jama'ah except for a widespread excuse, such as rain and a strong wind in the night, or that it's very muddy, and this is the most correct view, or that it's specific to a sickness. If you're going to go out in extreme cold and wind, you're going to get sick, or the person is sick, he can leave the jama'ah. Although, according to majority of the imams, the praying in Jamaat is sunnah, and according to Imam Ahmad, it's wajib. It's if you don't do it, it's sinful. But Shah Waliullah is like basically saying that you should not be leaving Jamaat on very small, feeble excuses. So because the reasoning given is extreme, it's harmful. So a Muslim is supposed to, and in Alamgiriya, this Fatawa collection, the Hanafi Fiqh collection, that that Jama'ah is omitted. It drops for a person on excuses. That is a person that is sick or is unable to move, then he's excused. And it also extends to, as per this hadith, that by rain, mud, cold, a severe cold, and severe darkness. So we can see the list of excuses that we actually go to the cases where Jama'ah was excused, told us. Then we have to look at the scenario. That it's not small things. It's there's a level of difficulty in that. It is burdensome. Therefore, the Sharia has reduced the emphasis on the Jama'ah. The virtue of praying Fadl al-Salat fil Jama'ah, Imam Malik narrated from Nafi, who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this chain, I always mention this, they're called the golden chain, is considered the most strongest narration that Imam Malik narrates from Nafi in Sarjis, who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar bin Khattab. Abdullah bin Umar, the son of one of the greatest Fuqaha, Muhaddithin of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, and he said the end of the era of Sahaba, Fatwa revolved around Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu. So Imam Malik, this is like considered the strongest narration hadith, that he said that Salatul Jama'ah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Salatul Jama'ah is more virtuous salat individually by 27 times. The reward of it is multiplied 27 times. Imam Malik, in narrated from Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, great Imam of Madinah Munawwarra, who narrated from Sa'id al-Musayyib, who's a tabi'i, son-in-law of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, from the Khairu Tabi'in, from the top 3, you could say, senior of the second generation, who narrated from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Salatul Jama'at is more virtuous from your salat individually 25 times. There's the explanations of why one narration mentioned 27, one mentioned 25, some mention type of masjid that you pray in, some mention the level of the degrees of sincerity. However, the Jama'at, definitely salat with Jama'ah, that extra effort that a person makes in coming to pray salat Jama'at where the Muslims are gathered for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Allah shakur, is appreciative of that, to make attendance to that Jama'ah, to the believers come together that he multiplies, he actually rewards a person more. And anybody that's slightly business inclined, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to make 1 times profit and then go walk up the road a little bit and it's going to be 25, 27 for doing the same basic effort, and probably end up doing it in a better way as well, because the environment, praying together, it forces us to concentrate a bit more, make a little bit effort more. Then intelligent person will make that little bit extra effort for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The virtues of being present in Jama'ah for Isha and Subh. So Isha, Salat al-Atama, the Hadith mentions Atama and Subh. Atama is another name for Salat al-Isha, and Subh is Salat al-Fajr. Imam Malik narrated from Abdurrahman ibn Harmat al-Aslami, who narrated from Sa'id ibn Musayyib, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, between us and between the hypocrites is appearing or being present, بيننا وبين المنافقين شهود العشاء والصبح لا يستطيعونهما. That the difference between us and the munafiqeen is that what separates between us from the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, is the prayer Isha, the night prayer, the last prayer of the night, and the morning prayer to be present, meaning in Jama'ah. And they are unable to do this. Imam Malik narrated from Sumayd, the freed slave Abu Bakr bin Abdurrahman, who narrated from Abu Salih as-Siman, who narrated from Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you knew what was in the Isha and what was, so meaning you knew what the reward was in the Salat al-Isha, in the morning Salat, then you would come to it crawling. And that if you knew the reward, like your small excuses, I'm sick, I have a cough, and I'm not going to come to the masjid. If you knew the reward, even if you were in a condition that the only way you can get to the masjid was to crawl, you would come to the masjid. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that you come to the masjid even crawling. And again, remember that in that time, there's no street lights. There's an exertion level that we don't have to experience. We sit in a heated car. There's a hadith actually mentioned about from the signs of Qiyamah, people will come to the masjid on couches. We've got heated couches. There's now even couches in our cars. They got massage inside maybe some of you have it, I don't know. Massage chairs inside the couches. That's so Rasulullah told us something so long ago, that people come to the masjid, and even that's difficult for us to come to sit in from our warm house into sit into a car, heated car, and then drive here and enter. Literally, like we only spend less than a minute outside. But even that's difficult for us. Maybe that's what's making it more difficult, because it becomes so soft. Imam Malik narrated from Shihab, who narrated from Abu Bakr bin Sulaiman bin Abi Hathmata, who narrated from Umar bin Khattab, that he missed Sulaiman bin Abi Hathma. He was not in the Salat Subh and Fajr Salat. So he's Amirul Mu'mineen, he's the Khalifa of the Muslim, he's Imam of the Muslims who are leading Salat. What kind of masjid would it be? It's Masjid Nabawi, but that your Imam is Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu didn't see him in Fajr. If I remember correctly, he's one of the governors or ministers, and he was not there in Fajr. Then Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, in the morning he went out to the marketplace, to the souq, right? And that even tells you something, that as a Khalifa, like his duties, he's doing his rounds. Then he went to the house, and Maskan Sulaiman bayna as-suq wal masjid, so his house was on the way. So فَمَرَّ عَلَى شِفَاء أُمِّ Sulaiman. So he passed by the mother of Sulaiman, and he said, I did not see him in the morning prayer, in Fajr. And he said that, فَقَالَتْ, what do you think he was doing, that he missed his Fajr? She said, he stayed awake, إِنَّهُ بَاتَ يُصَلِّي فَغَلَبَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. He didn't miss Fajr. He stayed awake in the night, he was praying tahajjud. And and then he fell asleep, and then extra nafil prayers he was praying. So Umar radiallahu anhu said that his presence in Salat Subh fil Jamaat ahabbu ilay min aquma layla. That is more beloved to me that he makes presence in the Salat Jama'ah, in the Fajr, than he prays the whole night. Imam Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id and Muhammad bin Ibrahim and Abdurrahman. This thing of separation of church and state, the religion should be separated from. This is Amirul Mu'mineen, concerned about one person's salat, right, who's not there, that in the masjid. The idea that you can be anti-religious and be involved in you can quote unquote secular, to be free from in religion, which just means it's another long-winded word of saying being anti-religious. Like it's still a stance against or for a religion. It's it's done in a roundabout way, and with extra words put in. But in reality, but if somebody was to take a stance or even slightly indicate towards Islam or Deen, then he has to think. Here is the Khalifa Amir al-Mu'mineen demonstrating that Deen is the purview of the ruler as well. He's got responsibilities. He'll be answerable for what happens under his watch in the country that his governorship, his mayorship, whatever it is. That he's kullukum mas'oolun. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that all of you are responsible. You'll be asked by Allah. You have to provide a response on your ra'iyah, on the flock, the people that you're under your care. So it's not that's, I feel, well, what is it to become a qadi, a judge of other people, is like to be slaughtered without a knife. It's not a privilege. It's a huge responsibility. Imam Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id, from Muhammad ibn Ibrahim, from Abdurrahman bin Abi Amrat al-Ansari, that he said, Usman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu came for Salat al-Isha. He saw the people of masjid, was very few. He leaned at the back. He was a Khalifa at his time. And then he leaned at the back of the masjid, he fattaja'a. They weren't waiting for 7:30 p.m., right? Because the people were few in the masjid. Right? The people of the jama'ah. So when is salat supposed to, what's the timing of salat? When the jama'ah is maximum. Right? So we're trying to change, people want 7:45 here, some want 7:30. There's a debate going on, among the brothers. So 7:45, brothers say we don't have enough time from work to Isha. So what's the ideal time to choose? Choose a time where the Jamaat is maximum. Right? So those who can pray at 7:45, 7:30, it's not like a preference of 7:30. All right, some people can't come at 7:30, so we'll make it a bit later, so everyone can come. Unless someone has to really go at work at 8 o'clock at night or something, and after Isha. The thing is to look for, so he just rested. Everybody just waits. They're not waiting for 7:30. The Imam is there. He's the Imam. If I sat down and said not enough people in the mosque, all right, we got 10 Imams here. They will step forward and they will lead the salat before we. And he says he reclined at the back, and he looked at the people until they became a lot, and then Ibn Abi Amra came. He sat with him and he asked him who he was, and then he told him who he was. So they were chit-chatting. And he goes, what is with you from the Quran? And then he informed him. Like he asked him, just having chat, and he's a person who's come, what do you know of the Quran? And Usman radiallahu anhu is, you know how he became shaheed. He was killed over the Quran. That Mus'haf is still there with his blood on it. He was reciting the Quran. He was known as a person Quran. He's one of the people known, in this narration, that he read the whole Quran in one night, in one rakat. Like you have to be someone specially attached to the Quran to be like that. So he asked him, what do you have from the Quran? Like, what do you know of the Quran? And he told him. Then he said, whoever witnesses Isha, meaning whoever is present at Isha, من شهد العشاء فكأنما قام نصف ليلة ومن شهد الصبح فكأنما قام ليلة. Then Usman radiallahu anhu told him, he said, whoever is present at Isha, it is as though he's prayed half the night in Jama'ah. And whoever has prayed Subh, the morning prayer, it's as though he's prayed the half the night. It is as though he's prayed the whole night. If you're present at Isha in Jama'ah and Fajr in Jama'ah, then it's as though you prayed the whole night. And Shah Waliullah said, تَخْصِيصُ هَاتَيْنِ الصَّلَاتَيْنِ بِذِكْرِ لِأَنَّهُمَا ثَقِيلَتَانِ عَلَى النَّفْسِ. He said that to specifying these two prayers, Shah Waliullah says that specifying these two prayers, excluding these prayers, by mentioning the hadith or the saying of Usman radiallahu anhu, these are two salat that are very heavy on the nafs, on the self, because it requires extra exertion. The chapter, it is necessary to follow the Imam in all the conditions, and the hadith of the Imam, Rasulullah ﷺ said that when the Imam prays sitting, you also pray sitting. There's ikhtilaf on this. Some Imams said this is not mansukh, this is not abrogated. Abrogating one hukam came, and then another hukam came, cancels that out. So for example, the hukam of do not come to salat in a state that you're intoxicated, right? So this is mansukh by the ayat that this is mansukh, it's abrogated. Like no one can take that ayat and say, well, I can drink outside now. That was initially they used to drink. Then they cannot come to pray in the state that they're drunk. And then later the hukam of it being forbidden cancels that out as well. So you cannot use that hukam for, say that hukam was for a certain time, right? So the later hukam cancel. It's called, meaning the previous hukum was mansukh. So he's saying this hadith is mansukh, is abrogated. Shah Waliullah said. I hope you understand. So abrogated, it cancels the previous ruling. Ibn Shihab narrated that Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, Imam Malik narrated from Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, who narrated from Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he rode a horse and he fell down and he injured his right side of his body, like he bruised it. And he prayed these prayers while he was sitting. And everyone that prayed behind him prayed sitting down. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the Imam, if the Imam prays standing, then stand with him. When he prays, when he's doing ruku, then make ruku with him. And when he says Sami Allahu liman hamida, say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And when he prays sitting, then pray sitting, all of you. Right? Imam Malik, and there's an interpretation counter to this, that because he's talking about different actions of salat, you can say this is talking about the end of salat. That when he's sitting, we pray sitting, all of us do. Right? Imam Malik, who narrated from Hisham bin Urwa, who narrated from his father Urwa, who narrated from Aisha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hisham bin Urwa, so Imam Malik narrated from Hisham bin Urwa. Urwa, his father Urwa is Urwa bin Zubair radiallahu anhu, the brother of Abdullah bin Zubair, who was a tabi'i, not a sahabi. He's the nephew of Aisha radiallahu anhu. That's why he's narrating from his auntie Aisha radiallahu anhu. The wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she said Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed while he was ill, and he prayed sitting down, and those behind him prayed sitting, standing. He indicated to them, they all sat, and then he turned, and he goes, the Imam basically leads you in prayers. When he prays, when he ruku, you make ruku. When he lifts his head up, and when he prays sitting, you pray sitting. Imam Malik narrated from Hisham bin Urwa and Abihi, and the Rasul, from his father, and Urwa, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went out in sickness. He was sick. He went to the masjid. He came to the masjid. He found Abu Bakr, and he was leading salat. He was standing and leading salat. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came back, and Rasulullah indicated to him. And then Rasulullah sat down on his side, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu prayed the salat with Rasulullah. And the people, so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu followed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the people followed Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Do you understand? This is right at the end of this is the end of life for Rasulullah, the last days of Rasulullah's life. So Shah Waliullah said, and this is according to the majority of scholars, that it is necessary to follow the Imam in all his condition, and that when he prays sitting, however, this when praying sitting, that you should follow him in sitting. This is abrogated, and from this the interpretation is that when the people used to pray by the Salat Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr was standing while Rasulullah was sitting. So although Rasulullah is the Imam, he's a follower, and they're following him. It's like us. If we can't hear, we just look at the saf that's in front of us, right? So we know what's happening in the salat based on the saf, the road that's in front of us. So they're looking at Abu Bakr Siddiq because they can see him, and they're following. He's standing. So from this, and then he's basically like they're following his direction. So in that way, the Hanafi fiqh, because if Shah Waliullah is a Hanafi, according to Hanafis, it's no, you don't sit with them. Other Imams have the view that if the Imam is praying sitting down, and I've seen this like in one place where the Imam, the whole mosque is sitting down praying, sitting down, like they're all sick. Like, I mean, it's not mockery, like it's just I'm saying this is actually a legitimate view based on that. But when you see it first time, some Imams say that you have a choice, but it's better to sit down and follow the Imam, so you match the Imam as much as possible. We'll stop there, inshallah. And we'll continue next week. I prepared another 2-3 pages, but inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq.